dkdynamite, and it's been a couple of weeks since we've gone in depth about DLC for The Reckoning for Black Ops 6 Zombies. I do believe marketing is imminent, so tonight I did want to focus a lot on the wonder weapon we could be seeing inside of this final map. Definitely stay tuned. Now in the background we got some gameplay of the starting room LTM, which I do suspect isn't going to be live any later than, I want to say, August the 7th, when Season 5 does officially begin. Now it's possible, as I've said before, that they'll end up bringing back all the LTMs at the end of this game's life cycle, but considering we're getting back-to-back Black Ops games this year, I'm not so sure. I think that could actually impact what they end up doing at the very end of Black Ops 6. I think my only issue with the mode is the cell-shaded filter on all of these maps. It just looks pretty blurry unless I turn my graphics up to max, which I don't really want to do whenever I'm recording, but I think other than that, it does really feel like classic zombies, or the closest to classic zombies inside of BO6. Obviously, you can get perk power-ups, and you will be limited to the machines that you can actually use depending on what arena you're on, but who knows, maybe this will set up an actual classic mode that we'll end up getting in Black Ops 7, which I think leaked out almost a year ago. But as I mentioned earlier, I do believe marketing is pretty imminent for DLC 4 The Reckoning. I think like with previous round-based maps within BO6, what you'll end up seeing is a bunch of different tweets showing different rooms and POIs within the round-based map. You'll have captions featuring some quotes from Toten or other important characters, and then after around 4 to 5 days of that, you'll likely end up getting a logo and map name reveal, which we know right now is The Reckoning because of that audio leak that popped up a couple of weeks back. This suggested that we were going to be seeing grief support inside of DLC 4 at some point later this year, so I think that's what this week will consist of, on top of the outro cutscene for Season 4, which will just end up teasing the Battle Pass operator and the DLC weapons of Season 5. Now, as far as a gameplay trailer and a full breakdown and reveal, I do think we're going to end up seeing that closer to July 31st, which is when the roadmap should end up dropping for the 5th season. Now, something you may have seen on my concept roadmap for Season 5 is the possibility of a super Easter egg reward within Season 5. I've seen this question asked quite a bit throughout some of my recent content with the launch of DLC 4, and if somebody, let's say, had already beaten all the previous quests in BO6, could it be possible that a super Easter egg reward is granted upon beating The Reckoning? It's absolutely possible, but what I do want to say is that I hope they don't add it in the super Easter egg at the launch of Season 5. At least wait until Reloaded, or maybe even Season 6, just to make sure zombies still get some type of exciting content for the next few months, considering the fact that we're going to have likely a 3-month-ish gap from The Reckoning to Black Ops 7 zombies. There won't be any other maps released from August all the way to, mid-November? November 14th is currently the rumored date for Black Ops 7, according to leakers out there. But if you think back to previous super Easter eggs across other zombie iterations, I mean, Cold War, for example, didn't add in its super Easter egg for many months after Forsaken ended up coming out, whereas games like Black Ops 1 and 2 did offer super Easter egg unlocks right away in maps like Moon and Buried, but those were a little bit different. BO3 did offer the calling card in RK5 right away when Revelations dropped, and there obviously wasn't a quest for BO4. But I think considering the 6-season structure that we currently have, it would probably be smart to wait a little bit after the launch of The Reckoning before adding one in. Maybe leakers will find references to one to encourage players out there to actually go ahead and do all of the main quests before rewards get added in, or the rewards may just leak out anyway. But as I mentioned before in a separate dedicated video about super Easter eggs, I'll leave that link down below, I don't think we're going to see anything too flashy or grand in BO6. Maybe the ability to spawn in with an ether tool or some perks and points, maybe free doors. How cool would it be if like an exclusive wonder weapon got added to the mystery box or something? That would be great, but I do think more of the gameplay super Easter egg rewards are probably going to be saved for Black Ops 7. Now, jumping into the wonder weapons for DLC 4, here's what I'll say, right? First off, the usual leakers not too long ago did find references to a pistol-like wonder weapon that we're going to be seeing in The Reckoning. It's unclear what that means, and we'll get back to that in a second, but there were also references found not long ago about the Blundergat, which I don't believe is going to be the wonder weapon in DLC 4, but we'll play around with the possibility, even though I think that is something that was discovered for Black Ops 7. According to the leakers out there, that was something tied to BO6 at one point. I think it's going to be like Mule Kick, where at one point maybe it existed for BO6 or got tested in Black Ops 6, but then got pushed back and is now being saved for the next Call of Duty. I do wonder though, if we're getting a pistol-like wonder weapon, how will they differentiate the wonder weapon in this map from the system we saw inside of Shattered Veil recently, which obviously offered the Ray Gun Mark II and then 3 elemental upgrades? Will we also see some elemental variants of this pistol wonder weapon again in DLC 4, or will it be a completely different type of wonder weapon where it's just one base model that you can pack a punch? Could there be upgrades that you can add to it that aren't elements, as we saw with the Ray Gun Mark II recently? I don't think they're going to do the same type of formula back to back, because Treyarch typically never does. I mean, we saw 4 different swords on Citadel, then the Ice Staff, then the 3 elemental Ray Gun Mark IIs. We didn't see that system back to back, but I guess things could change this year where they do a similar system 2 maps in a row. Now, I do want to refer back to these blueprints from Black Ops 4's classified map, because I do believe at one point the blueprints here were meant to tease the Ray Gun Mark II upgrades we were going to get inside of Alpha Omega, but obviously the Mark II upgrades ended up looking completely different by the time the map actually came out. Maybe that was because of budget cuts and Treyarch moving on to COD 2020 in the middle of BO4 cycle. Who actually knows? But taking a look at some of those ray guns there, maybe the wonder weapon we get inside of the Reckoning could look similar to one of those ray guns. I mean, they wouldn't call it a ray gun since we just had the focus on the Ray Gun Mark II within Shattered Veil, but I'm just bringing up some proposed scrapped pistol-like wonder weapons that could get revisited in the near future. But I do believe, since we didn't end up seeing dual-wield Mark IIs in Shattered Veil, and those were in Alpha Omega, it is possible that the pistol wonder weapon we get in DLC 4 will offer the ability for you to dual-wield them, so that they can at least feel somewhat different from the pistol-like wonder weapon we just had inside of DLC 3. Now, there's also Alastair's Folly, the wonder weapon from Dead of the Night back in the Chaos story. Ever since it's been leaked that a pistol wonder weapon was coming to the Reckoning, I've seen lots of comments talking about the Folly. Now, here's the thing. The system in which the Folly existed in is already a little bit too similar to the Mark II upgrades we just had in Shattered Veil, where there's one base variant, and then in that map there were 2 upgrades for it, whereas there were 3 upgrades in DLC 3. So will they do a similar system again, where it's a base model pistol and then you just have 2 upgrades for it that you can unlock throughout the map? I don't really think so, but then again, considering all the chaos connections we've seen over the last couple of months of Black Ops 6, I wouldn't fully rule out a chaos wonder weapon returning. And the Folly was quite phenomenal back in Dead of the Night. The map itself wasn't all that well received and still isn't to this day, but the wonder weapon is something that a lot of folks out there could probably defend as one of the better ones, especially for high rounds. I think a lot of folks have been looking for more chaos content to be added in, considering they've been dangling the story above our heads for the last couple of seasons, yet they haven't really done too much with the chaos story as far as bringing old characters, bosses, or wonder weapons back in. Maybe they're going to do that in BO7. I wouldn't fully rule that out either, but we then next up have the CRBRS. This is a wonder weapon from Maured or Toten, DLC 3 inside of Cold War. This is honestly one of my all-time favorites because of how unique this wonder weapon is and how the upgrades actually work for it, which I hope is maybe what has inspired the wonder weapon inside of DLC 4. So the CRBRS was quite different from any other wonder weapon we've seen. So obviously you have the floating orb, it's a laser gun, and then as you get kills with this wonder weapon, there's a possibility that other versions of the CRBRS drop that you can then quickly pick up and start using. One was like a shotgun, one was like this laser rifle. I mean, there were really cool variants of the CRBRS that you were able to unlock. I'll put some footage on screen so you can see, and the credit to who actually uploaded this footage on YouTube will also be in this video's description. This is a system that I do hope also comes back. There were a couple of versions you were able to pick up just randomly as you killed zombies. You didn't have to craft it or build it or do any type of elemental quest to get the other variants, so it was very different, and I do hope that this is the system they go with within DLC 4 The Reckoning. People also have pointed out that in the Modern Warfare 3 Zombies intro cutscene, you can see the CRBRS sitting there on a shelf somewhere near our dead crew, so I don't think we're going to see Requiem die in DLC 4 The Reckoning, because the events of Urzikstan, where apparently they do die, is a couple years after the events of BO6, so unless they jump time a little bit in a post-credit scene, don't think we're going to see that just yet, but maybe we do. Maybe we end up seeing that scene, you know, come into fruition to tie into MW3, and then in that case, that would make sense that the CRBRS was seen right next to our dead crew. But another pistol-like wonder weapon technically is the wave gun, right? So you had zap guns that you can dual wield, then you could stitch them together to make one big weapon. So that's also something that could come back at some point. If we get pistol-like wonder weapons, who says you can't dual wield them and then stitch them together to make something greater like a microwave gun? Obviously, this was only featured in Moon Zombies Chronicles, but considering we've seen lots of reused wonder weapons this year, apart from the Beam Smasher in Terminus, and apart from the swords in Citadel, I think a lot of folks are thinking, hey, if they're working on Black Ops 7 hardcore right now, we're probably going to get a reused wonder weapon inside of the Reckoning, which has me a little concerned because we want to see as many original wonder weapons as possible. But hey, this is a wonder weapon we haven't seen since Moon, or technically Chronicles 2017, whereas a CRBRS was in their last game, so every other wonder weapon that they've brought back in BO6 hadn't been seen in over like 5-6 years, so let's see if they end up bringing this one back. Now, an honorable mention is one of my all-time favorites, the Winter's Howl. Highly doubt this would be brought into the Reckoning as the DLC 4 wonder weapon, but just gotta throw it in here because it is technically a pistol that we had back in 5, then got brought back in Classified for BO4. Final predictions, though, is that we're going to have a craftable wonder weapon pistol that you'll likely be able to dual wield and then maybe get variants of by killing zombies, such as what we saw with the CRBRS. I don't think we're going to see elemental upgrades like what we just got with the Mark II and the Shattered Veil, but I do believe it'll be a worthy DLC 4 wonder weapon when comparing this to the Zap Guns or the Origin Staffs or the Revelations Apothecon Servant, which you were able to pack-a-punch, and even the Thunder Guns from Tagter Toten or the Crystal Axe from Forsaken. But that is about it. This has been dkdynamite. Leave all your thoughts down below in the comment section. What are your thoughts on the pistol-like wonder weapon that we're supposed to get for DLC 4 The Reckoning? Obviously, we also had these Zap Gun pistols from Infinite Warfare. We've seen plenty of pistol-like wonder weapons before that were already quite different from a regular ray gun, so hoping for the most originality that we can get so that this DLC 4 could stand out. But with that being said, really hope you've enjoyed, and I hope you guys are excited for The Reckoning marketing, which should start later this week. Peace out, everybody.